Chief, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Let's start with a young kid from West Baltimore to 35 years with Baltimore County Police. Growing up, did you think you would ever get to the point of being the first black chief of police for Baltimore County?
When I first joined the police department, it wasn't even a thought or a possibility. It wasn't within my realm of reality that I could ever be chief of police.
Why is that?
When you're 18 years old and you're African American and you come from West Baltimore and you come to an agency and there's less than 80 members, you have a sense of just being happy, just belonging. There's nobody telling you that you can be chief one day. You're just trying to survive. You're just trying to prove yourself. You're trying to find your place in the organization. You're trying to find your purpose and trying to be valued as a member.
So what got you to the point of not only being chief, but I mean, you've been in just about every role in this department. So what was that motivating factor that got you to where you are now?
I quickly learned that, through hard work and perseverance, that I could do pretty much anything I wanted in the police department. And I really learned that more in the military. My military career kind of gave me the foundation and the confidence to pursue higher heights in the police department. The military training that I had and the leadership training translated directly to what I was doing in the police department and gave me ambition. I quickly learned that if I learned to do the things that others didn't know how to do, or the things that they really didn't like doing, we had things like unusual occurrence, internal affairs investigations, those types of things, which were detailed and required quite a bit of work and effort, that those things, I could utilize those things to write my own career, and I quickly did that.
Got it. So in 35 years, a lot has changed in policing. I left the police department almost 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. One of the main words that we've heard for years now, in recent years, transparency. Mm-hmm. What is your plan to make Baltimore County Police more transparent to the community?
Well, I could say that our agency has done a lot over the past few years in terms of improving transparency and accountability, whether it's through body-worn cameras, through the changes of our policies. But I also like to believe that we've, to a degree, we've always been a transparent agency, because we were one of the first community policing agencies, and we've had what we call a Citizens Academy, that I think we call it now a Community Partners Academy, or something to that effect. Those things have put us closely in touch with our communities. We tend to interact with our communities. We have open houses. We do a lot to make ourselves transparent with our community. We make our policies available online to our citizens, and our citizens can basically either walk into our any precinct or our headquarters, or one of the precincts, and inquire about anything that they care to inquire about. And we have a heavy online presence also. But in terms of making us more transparent and accountable, it starts with me. As the leader of this organization, me being open, me being candid, me being available, just making sure that we're doing things the right way, to make sure that we're treating people with respect and dignity. And that respect and dignity starts on the inside of the agency. I firmly believe that if we lead and we treat our employees, both the professional staff and sworn, in a respectful manner, that translates into the respect that goes out in the street, and that respect and dignity is given to the citizens of Baltimore County.
Yes. Now, does that transparency include members of the media, which essentially is a partnership between a lot of police departments and the media? Like, police departments rely on the media to get information out, but without that information, media can't get that out. So does that transparency extend to media as well?
Absolutely. In my career, I've had the chance to be the director of media relations, so I clearly understand the mission of the media. We're always, every day, looking at our policies and looking at the way we do things. And of course, we're currently looking at our policies and procedures and looking at ways that we can better serve the community through the media by getting information out to you as soon as possible. Of course, there's always those things that we have to hold back on because of there might be an ongoing investigation, or there might be information or tidbit or something that we can't release that might be relevant to our ongoing investigation.
All right. So a problem that's facing police departments across the country, especially here in Baltimore City, there are almost 500 officers short. I noticed pulling up to this building, there's a now hiring sign here for Baltimore County. Is your department short? And if so, how many officers, and how is that affecting your calls for service?
We are short. As of today, we're approximately 219 officers short. I point out the fact that this is a national phenomenon. This isn't something that's just unique to Baltimore County. It's an issue facing law enforcement agencies across the country. We're currently working to shore that up. We're running 4 academy classes a year. So we're hiring ongoing in terms of hiring additional personnel and making sure that we're getting them through and out onto the street as fast as we can.
How's that going as far as the number of applicants that you've received?
We still have significant amount of applicants coming in. Of course, the issue is always making sure that we get qualified applicants. Because we get a large number of applicants doesn't mean that we always get qualified personnel. There's always drug screening, there's work history, there's in terms of being able to just meet all the standards that we have in terms of just everybody can't become a police officer.
Right. Now, does that include lateral police as well?
That includes laterals also.
Got it. So one of the things we've seen, especially in surrounding areas, Baltimore City, is a rise in teen violence, whether it be guns, fights, disturbances, you name it. But also coming out of Annapolis, there were a lot of laws passed that kind of limit what juveniles will face from a criminality standpoint. Do you think that hinders how your police can actually deal with juveniles?
It will impact how we deal with juveniles, but like everything in police work, we find a way to get the mission done. We find a way to keep our communities safe, and we find ways to better serve our youth in our communities. So, we look for alternative programs. Of course, in Baltimore County, we have numerous partners that work with us. The county now has the ROCA program that they utilize to help young adults and our youth. So we look for ways. We look to partner with our partners, the individual partners throughout the community, and the other agencies across county government and state government to better serve the youth. Of course, we look for investments downstream in terms of investing in them, whether it's education, alternative programs, youth violence types of things, or things that we do to interdict in terms of preventing future violence.
And speaking of youth, of course, summer's right around the corner. Of course, that's usually when we see a spike in crime. We had the incidents at the Townsend Town Center, large juvenile disturbances there. Going into summer, what is your plan to combat things like that from happening? We've seen posts on social media where teens are basically saying, hey, let's meet at this place, let's cause a disturbance. So what is your plan internally? Is there an investigative tool you guys are using to track those disturbances? And as summer approaches, how are you going to tackle that?
Well, the best way to predict the future is to look at the past. And so we know where we've had problems in the past, and we can pretty much predict where we're going to have problems in the future. You mentioned the fact that we can monitor social media and those types of things. They're things that we do. Of course, we make sure that we have a visible presence. We work with the the Chamber of Commerce, the owners of the various malls and different businesses. We also make sure that we have technology in place to make sure that we can surveil the area and try to prevent something from happening. But if something does happen, we make sure that we're able to retrieve that information and utilize it to track down the offenders.
And you mentioned boots on the ground, but how hard is that being 200 plus officers short? Like, we can't be everywhere at every moment. So how hard is that going into the summer months to plan for that?
We're fortunate that we have a big county and we have a large department. So we're able to shift our resources to the areas where we need to shift our resources to address the problems that we have. We have a variety of techniques and a variety of units that we have that we're able to rotate those units in so that we're not always giving the same footprint or the same look to an area. There's times that we can, have marked units. There's times that we can use, unmarked units. We can use detectives. So we rotate those resources. We utilize our narcotics units, our investigative services teams, our community outreach teams, and of course we have a robust aviation unit. So we have a lot of resources that we can put towards whatever the problem is. And of course, it comes back to we can go to traditional enforcement methods, whether it's traffic enforcement or criminal enforcement.
So Baltimore City has imposed a curfew. Mayor Brandon Scott, after an incident down at the Inner Harbor a couple of weeks ago, imposed a curfew. Here in Baltimore County, I'm not aware of a curfew, but do you think that is something the county could lean towards? And if so, how big of a role would that be for your officers to enforce that?
Well, that's something I can't speak to right now in terms of any type of curfew. What we seek to do is to create an environment where everyone feels safe, where everyone can enjoy, whether it's work, play, or do business in Baltimore County. That's the environment that we desire. It's our job to monitor the environment, to make the environment safe, and to do our very best to help our citizens function from day to day.
But if a curfew was imposed, just hypothetically speaking, would you support it? And again, how would you enforce it? Because you can't be everywhere at all times, and there's probably going to be a lot more juveniles than you have cops on the streets.
Like I said, I can't speak to whether I would support something like that. It would be something that I would have to research and look at and go from there. It's something that I wouldn't quickly move to. I think that the dynamics in Baltimore County lend itself that we look at our entire situation and decide and work as a team to decide what we're going to do.
Okay. Let's switch gears a little bit, Chief. So the county's had 2 homicides in a week. Yesterday, a 28-year-old was shot. Then the previous Sunday, a 17-year-old was shot. Are you concerned there's a rise of gun violence here in the county?
I'm always concerned when there's any type of violence in Baltimore County, first of all. In these 2 incidents, I would say from my experience that they're isolated incidents, that they're not incidents where they pose a greater threat to the community or anybody else. These incidents, while isolated, seem to be targeted also. In terms of that, I'm always concerned about violence. I'm concerned about the fact that there's so many guns out there and that people are willing to use them. But once again, that comes back to our mission as a police department to protect and serve the community and keep the greater community safe.
And with that level of safety, back in my days of policing, most of my guns I got were from traffic stops, routine traffic stops, as people like to call them. Do you have a strategic plan to tackle guns? Or are you going to set up maybe a gun task force or anything like that?
What we're going to do is take a holistic approach to policing. We're going to be proactive. I've asked my patrol commanders to make sure that our officers are out there, they're being visible, We've deployed various technologies out there to assist us in identifying offending vehicles, whether there's registration issues, licensing issues. Just by being visible, we hope to interdict some of these problems. Got it.
So we've talked to a few residents here in the recent weeks with things that have happened at Towson Town Center, the shootings. I had one mother whose son goes to Towson University who told me she fears she's going to get that call one day that her son is no longer alive. What do you say to the citizens of Baltimore County? A lot of that moved from the city to the county to feel safer, but now they're at a point where they say they don't feel safe. So what do you say to those citizens that are saying, hey, I don't feel safe in the county?
Well, as a parent, I clearly understand what they're saying, but I also would reassure them as their chief is that we're doing everything to make Baltimore County a safe place to live and to work and for our children to go to school. Of course, in our society, there's always situations where there's violence across our society from one coast to the other, and there's always that chance, and we don't want any mother to have to be notified that that something has happened to their child. But once again, we're doing our very best, and we're deploying our resources and technology to keep her child safe, along with all the children of Baltimore County.
And with that, a lot of residents have said their notion is that crime is spilling over from Baltimore City into the county because there's only a road that separates the city from the county. Do you think that some of the crime you've seen, whether it's at the Towson Town Center, the murder of 16-year-old Trayshawn Harmon from Baltimore City, do you think that's a result of crime spilling over from the city into the county?
I think crime knows no boundaries. Crime is everywhere. Crime does not know the city or county line. So crime's everywhere. I think the reality is that we work with our partners to combat crime in this region. There's various task force that exist, like the Regional Auto Theft Task Force and the Warrant Task Force, and we work very closely with our partners, the Maryland State Police, along with our neighboring jurisdictions to deal with the various issues in this region. We will continue to do that. We will continue to work together as partners to address that crime.
And with that, would you or have you be willing to reach out to Commissioner Michael Harrison, Baltimore City Police?
Commissioner Harrison and I have had dialogue on several occasions about issues in the region, and like I said, we will continue to work together. They're our partners, and we're all in this together.
All right, let's switch gears. What would you want the citizens of Baltimore County to know about you being selected as their chief? Why would you tell them you're the right person for the job?
Because I personally care. I'm personally invested. For now, almost 36 years of my life have been given to service of Baltimore County. My life has been service, whether it's been service in the Baltimore County Police Department or in our U.S. military. I know what it is to be a citizen of Baltimore County. I still live here. My family lives here. I've always worked here. And I have family throughout the entire county. I travel this county, and we do our recreation and everything else in this county, and I want this county to be safe also, just as safe as they want it to be. I'm totally committed as their chief and dedicated to the mission of keeping every citizen, every school, every church, every institution in this county, including the businesses, because we have a robust economic system in this county. And the only way that we can keep this county the way it is economically is by keeping it a safe place to live and work.
So what's your message to the men and women that serve under you? Because in policing, let's be honest, it's not a pretty job all the time. Sometimes you may have to use force. Sometimes you may have to do something that the public may perceive as excessive. So what would your message to the men and women that serve under you be as far as your level of support as their leader?
My message to them is that I understand every day what they do. I understand what they do every day. I understand the challenges that they have. I understand the challenges that we face together in the future. As their leader, I'm with them. I support them. I think they know what I expect from them. They know that I expect them to treat our citizens with dignity and respect. But I also expect that that they will be treated with dignity and respect as they make the numerous sacrifices that they make in their personal lives. We have to remember that these police officers, many of them, when we're short, they're working overtime. Many of them work some pretty intense hours. They work shift work, and many of them miss, every day, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, Christmas. They're making sacrifices to serve the citizens of this county, and so I understand what they do, and I'm there to support them and to lead them as the chief of this agency. But I also represent the people of this county also, and I support them as well.
So, what is your biggest fear or concern as the chief of police?
I think as a chief of police, you have many fears. You just never know what's going to happen next, so you have to be prepared. But my greatest fear is the safety of the men and women of this police department. The last thing that I want to do is to have to bury one of my own. I've been there before. I was there I was one of the last people to speak to Sergeant Bruce Prothero the day he died. I spoke to Officer Amy Prothero. I spoke to Officer Amy Caprio about an hour before she died that day. And I was one of the first people to arrive on the scene that day when she was struck by that vehicle. When you experience those things firsthand as a leader, those things stay with you. You carry those things with you the rest of your life. So my greatest fear is losing one of my officers. I want them to have all the tools that they need. I want them to be safe. I want them to look out for each other. My message to them every day is to make sure that they're looking out for one another, that they're watching one another's back, and that they're not taking officer safety for granted. Because what we do is dangerous. It's dangerous work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
All right. I want to switch gears really quick and get your thoughts on the word gang. There's talk, especially in the city, about a gang problem, even in other areas. What is your definition of a gang, and do you think there's a gang culture here in this region?
Well, I think when we look at gangs, in terms of my training when it comes to gangs, there's a formalized definition of a gang. And can't go into all the technicalities of it, but there's a way to define a gang. I think what we see in this region, you have these neighborhood crews. You have these kids who grow up together, they're friends, and sometimes they even come from various neighborhoods, and they either meet each other at school and those types of things, but they form these crews. And some of them, they go out and intentionally engage in criminal activity. Some of them are become involved in criminal activity, at a whim or something when somebody says, hey, let's do X, or let's, they become introduced to criminal activity at a young age. I don't think that we have these formalized gangs like you have, Crips, Bloods, these real criminal gangs. But you have these neighborhood crews that make up these small criminal youth groups.
But essentially, wouldn't that be considered a gang?
We like to go into this definition. I think of a gang in a more organized role or organized purpose. I think when my experience with investigating and seeing a lot of these neighborhood crews, They're not organized. They don't have a formalized structure. They're just they're for lack of better words, many of them are just misguided youth who are just out there doing things that they don't always know the consequences for.
So when you say formalized structure, you're meaning like captains, lieutenants, sergeants?
Yeah, and typically gangs have a formalized structure. When you look at true gangs, they have a formalized structure. These neighborhood crews don't have formalized structure. They're just a bunch of kids just running around, committing criminal acts, whether it's carjacking, robbery, those types of things.
Okay. I just want to clarify something you said earlier about the 2 recent shootings. You said they appear to be targeted, not random acts, right?
They appear to be targeted, not random acts.
Is there any suspect information on either of those?
I can't get into those things right now. They're ongoing investigations. I've given you as much as I could about that without going into it. We don't want to jeopardize the investigations. We have exceptional detectives in Baltimore County. I'm very confident that they will do their very best to solve these 2 cases.
All right. Well, Chief, thank you so much for your time sitting down with us. We greatly appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Kai Jackson. Thank you for watching. Here's another video to watch. Also, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel.